Good evening, everyone. It's another Thursday night, another episode of Tisa's Rants and Musing. I hope you are well. Come on in the room. This is an episode you don't want to miss. We are in the season of Advent, and so that means it's Christmas time, and we are just talking and keeping in line with the themes of Advent and having people share their inspirational stories. So if you've been struggling with fear, struggling in the faith, struggling with just keeping your spirits up, you want to hear tonight's guest. So come on in the room. I'm going to give a minute or two for people to get in the space, and then we're going to let her just loose so that she could share her story. She could share just so much of her experience that I think will bless you on tonight. Be sure to share this. Hey, Teresa, be sure to share this with anyone that may be feeling a little down, feeling like things are really hard. I don't know about you, but this was a challenging week for me. So anyone who might need some encouragement, I think they will be blessed by her story, blessed by her triumph and what God is doing in her life. So come on in the space. I know folk are out shopping. Some folk told me they wouldn't be able to be on tonight. So you guys know I don't wait too long. And hopefully everyone goes back and they view it, even if they're not on with us at the same time. So welcome, welcome, welcome to the space. Come on in the room if you're here. And then we are going to just go ahead and get started. I'm a firm believer that God always has on who he needs to have on when he needs to have them on. So come on in the space and let's get started. All right. You guys know I get impatient because I got to hear the story. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And we are going to hear from this wonderful woman. All right, welcome again to Tisa's Rants and Music. It is the season of Advent. We are celebrating the coming of Christ, remembering and keeping in the forefront of our mind the journey of Jesus coming into the world as the light of the world. This is our season where it really is about Jesus, right? It is about him coming into the world as the light, being the light of the world. Just for us. So it's bigger than gifts, it's bigger than the joy of giving. It is really all about the gift that he gave us in his life. So I'm excited to have you in the space. Last week, we kept in line with the Advent season. We talked about hope. This week, for Advent, we're going to be talking about faith. And again, with some of the Advent themes, you can see it as faith, you can see it as peace, some say it's love, but I really felt pressed in my spirit to talk about faith over fear. Because in this season, I don't know about you, but so many people have been living in fear of where, and again, we're normalizing it here. We don't believe that when God tells us not to fear, that is about shaming us for having fear. It's to support us because God knew that that is a common emotion that we would experience. So when you are in a season where everything you hear, COVID numbers going up, unemployment numbers, people struggling during the holiday season, struggling with griefs. This is going to be so many people's first Christmas without loved ones. My first Christmas without knowing my father's here on the earth, right? So many people are grieving. It's so easy to fall into a space of fear and despair. But tonight, okay, I have a special guest that I'm excited is on. I have known this young woman since, oh Lord, it was the 90s, right? We were both probation officers. We met at New York City Department of Probation, where we were both probation officers. And I have watched her journey from leaving probation to where she is now, to what she's doing now. She's a mom, she's an entrepreneur, she's a woman of God. She has always supported and been a support for me and my ministry, and I have tried to support her along the way. But when I thought about faith over fear, God put her on my heart. So I want you to help me welcome to the show tonight, Robin Devonish.
Hi.
Yay! She is the founder. Okay. Hey, Glenda. Hey, Claudine. Thank you. She is the founder of Pen Publish Profit. Did I get that right?
Yes,
Pen
ma'am.
Publish Profit. She has, before anybody I've known, I owe her a book. Okay. She has been on me for writing a book. She has been one of the first women I've known to really get into self publishing and helping people learn how to do that. But she has a deeper story than that. She has such a story that of, and I'm gonna let you get into it, but of moments that have inspired me, moments that could have easily left you in despair, left you with so much fear that it was difficult to have faith, difficult to keep moving. Yet you never stopped the dream. You kept pushing, and to God be the glory. And you're still pushing.
Yes.
So, welcome to Tisa's Ransom Musings, my sister. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and just help us through this journey of coming into spaces? Let me just be honest with you guys. When I called her to tell her God laid her on my heart, I had to tell her story back to her. You're right. She's so busy living and walking a life of faith that it didn't dawn on her that she's an extraordinary woman of faith. It never, and she's not clergy, so she's not into, titling and all this stuff. She's a humble sister, okay, but she does some amazing ministry work, okay? She's done DV work. She's done so much, but she's so humble. She didn't even know. She was like, me? Really? Oh, girl, listen, it's time to tell the story. It's time to let people see just how God has used you to inspire so many around you to stay with the faith, but to also not let fear cripple you from doing what God may have called you to do. So I'm gonna leave it up to you. I'm done. I bought my tissue this week, y'all.
We gotta have a conversation here. You can't just leave me and be like, "You just talk." No. This has to be a conversation.
Oh, of course.
Okay, so let me roll my eyes because I'm just I'm a little emotional over here.
Listen, I'm a little bad, so the tears are okay. Let's start here. Let's start from when I met you, right? When I met you, you came to New York City Department of Probation. Start us there.
Yeah. So before I get into that story, let me just say first of all, thank you for so much for reaching out to me and allowing me to speak on your platform. And as I said to you on the phone, I was very shocked. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just living, right? I'm just living. I'm just, I've learned how to move forward. I've learned how to persevere and all of that good stuff. And so when you said to come over here and talk about, faith over fear, remember we were on the phone, I said to you, as I'm talking to you, all these things are flashing in front of my eyes, things that happened, things that really could have shook my faith. And it was like, okay, Robin, yeah, you need to share that stuff. You need to, tell people, what has happened to you and stuff like that. And I'm just like, well, I'm just living. But I thank you for, just for that moment. It was just like a moment to, praise God and just really be thankful for all the things that he's carried me through that I listen. But so hello everyone, as Tisa said, my name is Robin Devonish and I am the founder of Pen Publish Profit, where we write and publish great books, we make money and we impact the world. And so before I got into this whole book thing, right, I have a background in human services. That's where I started. That's where my degree is. It's in human services. And I was, I had graduated from college maybe a few years before that. I don't know, 2 years before. And they had I was working for ACS and they had to open that Department of Probation. And what's so crazy is that with the Department of Probation, I wanted that job so bad. Like I felt like I didn't even need another job after that. That's the job that I wanted. I want to be able to, work with people who have, been incarcerated or, have gotten into some type of trouble. Maybe I could help them along the way. And so interestingly, during that time as well, I was pretty newly saved. Like I had not, been saved for a super, super long time. And one thing that I realized about being saved is that, being saved, or even, just walking with a certain type of light, that, people will not like you for no reason. Like they'll just not like you. And I think that, being there was my first encounter of seeing that people will actually try to ruin your life. Yes. And do things to really hurt you. And so the story that after being there for a year, I was fired. Basically, I was fired. There was a lady there that was in supervisory position, and she just had it in for me. I don't know what it was. I ain't do nothing to this lady, but she had it in for me. And I would say that was really my first major test at faith, because what was crazy is that on the week that I got fired, the week before, I had just got keys to my new apartment.
Yes.
So here I am, about to move into my new apartment. I'm excited. And the next week I lose my job. And so, at the time, I'm a single parent. I was a single parent. And so my son was probably about 10 years old at that point, probably about 10. And here I am in a new apartment and I don't have a job.
Right.
So it took me, I don't even know how long. It took a long time for me to get a job. Then when I finally got a job, I lost the job again. So it was in the same year. So I lost my job in April, and then I lost my job again in December, because I got to another job and there was another lady there. The director liked me, but there was a person that worked with me. She didn't like me. And when the director went on vacation, she got me fired. So I lost 2 jobs in 1 year, single parent, have to pay rent. My son's in private school. And I'm like, okay.
And so let me just be clear, because you're still newly saved.
You're
newly saved.
Yes.
And so it's not like you had years of applying this faith walk.
No.
What this is an example of how easily, because you are a babe in Christ, you could have allowed that circumstance, especially the second firing, which again,
wait, a week before Christmas.
And a week before Christmas. So it felt like attacks, I'm sure, coming at you. Like God was, that the enemy was using these people to really just come after you and undermine what you were trying to build, which was a safe home for your son, and just get your life and your career going. And here you get knock after knockdown after knockdown in 1 year, right before the holidays.
Right before.
What made you walk back into Mighty's church? What made you keep the faith? What made you, because again, we're not talking about years of experience where God will bring you through, but there was something obviously that God had already started doing in your life that gave you some staying power.
I would say that it was a combination of God and a combination of my mom.
Amen.
So my mom passed away when I was in my early 20s. She had passed away. My son wasn't quite 1 year old yet. And so one of the things about my mother is that she used to push me to just do stuff. Like, she pushed me to go, she wanted me to go to college. She just pushed me to do a lot of things. And like, she kind of instilled in me that whole don't give up, partly because she sacrificed. So she gave up her life to raise her kids. And so when it came to us, she wanted us to do, things. So I think that it partly came from her, but I also believe that I just believe that God was just holding my hand. So during that time, I just would pray and just like try to figure out and not give up and just, continue to move forward. And then on top of that, I have this little kid here, right? And, I have to, show him that, listen, things are going to happen in life, right? Because his life changed too. And things are going to happen in life. And so what you have to do is you have to keep moving and you have to persevere. So I think it was a combination of, my mom, and God, just really, holding me. Now, let me be clear. I'm not going to say that I didn't cry.
Oh,
I'm
of
not
course.
going to say that I wasn't hurt and that I wasn't devastated. Absolutely I was, because I didn't realize people could be so mean. Right. So, here I am with, and I'm not perfect, but I didn't realize that people could be so mean. And then what really is crazy to me, I didn't realize that people could be so mean and they profess Christ too.
My God. And can I just co-sign? Because when I first got to probation, first thing my supervisor said to me, "Oh, so you're a so-called born again believer?" I didn't even know this woman. I didn't know how she found out that I was supposed to be a Christian. And she used to call me snot nose. And she was just a nasty person. Also, they tried to get me caught out there to get me fired. So I can attest that this it's not always the person, because sometimes people believe, well, she must have been doing something, or she must have not been doing something for people to be this way. When no, sometimes you could walk into a place that is straight up have demonic forces.
Listen.
And walk in with the light of God, with the joy of God. It just irritates the spirits that are in. You don't know why. You happy. You walking around. That was me. Hey, I'm happy. And people were so mean. They were going, hard. And my girlfriend, my BFF is online, and she still works for probation. And she could probably still say to this day, there are so many. Hey, Jamia, so many, Katina, that when you walk into this space, we didn't know it then. That when we walk into these spaces, that our very presence, because of the light of God in our hearts, our very presence would irritate the enemy, and he would do all that he can.
Yes.
But they don't know. What I love about your stories, they don't know that they were helping to set you up for where God really wanted you to be. You thought you had it planned out. You was going to be a lifelonger probation officer.
Exactly. Possibly the commissioner someday. Absolutely.
Yeah, you had your own career trajectory in your mind.
All plans out.
And here you go. Not get laid off. It's something when folks fire you. It lands differently.
Yes.
But look. Okay, let you go ahead.
Like, how could you do that? You know that I have a son. Like, it's not a secret. It's like, why? How could you do that? But I think that was my first encounter. I mean, I knew through the years that people could be mean, but it was different when I wasn't saved. That was part of the belly of the beast. That was part of the jungle of growing up where I grew up, right? That, you know that there are some people that are just going to be straight mean. But I think that once you transition over, into this place where you say, I'm confessing Christ as my, Lord and Savior and all of that, I think that for some, you get smacked for a little bit and think that, okay,
you're still on cloud nine. You haven't gotten dated, right? You still walking out.
Exactly. So who's gonna do anything? You think that you're Teflon. You're problem proof and all that other stuff, right? Because really, to be honest, when you first get saved, they don't tell you about the things that are gonna dart. They don't tell you all about that at first, right? That's not how the story's given to you, so to speak, right? So you're thinking that you're all good, and then these things happen. And so 2 jobs in 1 year, And then after that, what was so interesting, and I don't even know if a lot of people knew this, because it's not, I'm not a sharer. It's not like I just kind of go through what I'm going through and I don't share. But after that second time, I got unemployment for a while, but I couldn't not find a job. Like, I felt like I was blackballed. And eventually, me and my master's degree self, I had to go on public assistance.
Wow. Wow.
I had to go on public assistance so I don't get put out of my house, right? I had to, so that was even humbling. So the second lesson in that as well is, sometimes you have to do those things that really they bother you, but they humble you, right? Like, I still had to do what I had to do. So I had to go on public assistance for a little while. And we all know that, back then that was like the most humiliating experience, just in how they brought you through, just thinking that everybody is a one size fit all and stuff like that. And no, here I am, an educated person, but I just can't find a job.
Yes, and it's such a dehumanizing
process
that people through for aid. It's terrible.
Yes, but all the while, still staying with Jesus. Still staying with Jesus. Still, going to church, having my moments, but just still, trying to stay focused in this walk, of faith, right? And having people, that are talking to me, that are, trying to help me and all of that. And that's another thing too. I really didn't want a whole bunch of help from people. Like, I didn't want people giving me money. I just said, you know what? God is going to work it out. And my son's life, his life may have to change for a little while, but he gonna be all right too. He has to understand that these are the things that happen. Sometimes your life is altered, and and it affects everything. But you just have to, stay whole. So he and I, every Sunday in church, he playing on the drums, he's in the kids choir, we're doing what we need to do, and just moving forward. But eventually, I do get a job again.
Yes, but I love what you're saying, because I don't know, last week's guest came on and she just talked about it just sticks with me that life happens to us all.
Yes.
Right? Not life happens to unbelievers and only joy and happy things happen to believers. Life happens to us all. So there are moments in all of our lives that we are going to have situations that are hard, that create a sense of fear. Where's my next money, my rent going to come from? That can humble and humiliate us at the same time.
Yes.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that God isn't still with us. And I love what you said when you said you just knew that God was holding your hand. Mm-hmm. I hope somebody's already starting to feel encouraged, because God will hold your hand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
In the midst of your tears, in the midst of you crying, girl, I know you was bawling. I think we talked on the phone bawling together. Still, though, at the core, knowing that God is with you. Yeah. That's already a lot. But go ahead and tell us, you eventually get a job, but then you also end up with some health challenges. Like, I don't want to move.
Oh, wait, you going way ahead. So this.
Okay, let me slow it down then.
You got to that part.
Okay, so let me let you tell the story.
So that I eventually get a job again, and I'm, in church, I'm in ministry, and without getting into too much of the story, the bottom line is that there was a rumor out that I said something about a particular person in the church and the church that I was attending. And it was just this whole big conspiracy, so to speak. And at this point, I was very, I guess you can say, comfortable within the church, meaning that, I was working inside the church, working for the church, working with, their social service initiatives, had my own office and all of that. But a situation happened, and then one day I come to work and my office door is locked. Basically just everything was stripped away from me. Everything was stripped away from me. I mean, there's so much more dynamics to the story, but the bottom line is that the everything that that I was doing in the ministry was stripped away from me, and people in the church stopped talking to me, and it was just a whole situation. And what was so crazy when that happened to me, normally when people are hurt, within, church realm and things happen, they leave. But I didn't leave. I stayed. Like,
Yeah.
because I didn't feel, for one, because it wasn't true. But two, I didn't feel led to leave. I didn't feel like I had to leave. Right. And I actually stayed for 2 years after the whole situation happened. But what was so interesting about it was, I think they wanted me to leave because of everything that went on. And when I didn't leave, they said, well, okay, she's talented. She's talented. She has she's resourceful or whatever. Let's just give her a job to do. And what they did was they gave me the job of being the head of the usher board. Now, anybody that goes to church, they know that is the most challenged ministry in the church, the usher board. Of a couple of reasons, right? It's a couple of reasons because of attitudes and just dealing with people, and you have to have a certain type of temperament to be able to to be an usher. And so they really did. It's a nice sized church, and they really only had like 4 ushers in the church. But they was like, oh, make her usher. Like, I know that job was given to me because it was like, well, let's just give her something to do since she's not going to leave. Right. And I stayed still, and came to church every Sunday and all of that. And I became an usher, and I became the head usher. And at the time that I felt the release to go, we started with 4, but when I left, they had 25 ushers.
Come on now. Come on.
So when that's what happened. And so
let me just stop you. Let me just be clear that we get this clear.
Yeah.
You worked for them. You had your own office.
Yes.
They took you out your office, demoted you.
Yes.
Pretty much demoted you. They gave you the job that they expected you to really fail at, or at least be miserable at.
Yes.
Because you didn't leave when they threw you out, pretty much, of your space. They didn't know that you already kind of had this foot in with faith and God and this walk with God, that you were not going to be that easily moved. But with God's grace, that's what it sounded like you saying to me, that you took the worst position in the house.
Yeah.
Wasn't it David who said, I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of God? You took the doorkeeper position and magnified it, helped build it up, girl. Girl, if that will take a level of maturity in Christ, a level of maturity to say, I know what you did and I know what you're trying to do, but even in this dark place, you sound like that sound like a Joseph to me. Even in this prison, I'm gonna do the ministry God called me to do, which is to build people up. And when you left them better than when you came.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Only God, only
absolutely. And that situation was hard as well, because I mean, I had people that I thought were friends of mine. They stopped talking to me, or like, say if I walk past and I say hello, they'll say hello, but then they'll make a face. Like, it was just, and it was crazy because God would allow me to, it was interesting that God would allow me to see all of this. But you know what I realized? I realized that, God was showing me that don't do this. Like, don't ever do this, what they're doing. Like, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna be. So really, I felt like that situation, it taught me patience, it taught me compassion, it taught me about grace.
Yes, grace.
Right? It taught me about grace. It taught me about mercy. It taught me about forgiveness, because those were the things that weren't given to me. Right? So of course, it was very hurtful, but I stayed for 2 years. I stayed for 2 years and all of that. And, when it was time for me to go, I wrote my beautiful letter and then I went on about my business.
Wow.
to the church that I've been going to, that I go to now, and I've been for quite some time. But yeah,
To God be the glory.
God be the glory.
It's a miracle. People don't understand that there are levels of to church hurt no one can blame somebody if they walked away from church, and not
Yeah.
necessarily walk away from God, but walked away from wanting to be bothered with the institution of church. So thank God that even though you went through all of that, you still found a healthier house to be a part of,
Yes.
because you valued church ministry. You valued the house of God in that way. That's a level of maturity. A lot of people, like you said, walk out and they don't come back.
Yes. Yes. And you know, it's so interesting because I remember when I left, the first lady, she called me, and love her, just a beautiful woman. And she she said to me, you know, Robin, I'm just calling to check on you. She said, because I want to make sure, I understand that you left, and I get that. That's, you know, but she said, what I want to make sure is that you haven't left God. That's what I want to make sure. And I said to her, absolutely not. I'm not, you know, gonna leave God. I haven't left God. You know, yes, a lot has happened, but I'll always love you. But it's time for me to move on. And so I believe that took me into another level of faith as well. To, you know, because a lot of times when you think about it, the fear, it's more fear than leave than stay. Like a lot of times, you just think of an abusive situation. A lot of times the person does it, they're scared to leave. It's easier for them to stay than leave. It takes that faith to, you know, jump out and say, okay, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And so for me, that was definitely a leap of faith for me to say, you know what? I left in good standing. I ain't bashing nobody. I ain't talking about nobody. I ain't saying nothing. I'm just going to bow out gracefully. It's time now. God gave me the place. He told me where to go. And that's where I went. And so that's what ended up happening, you know, to me in that situation, that faith situation. Right. So now, you know, first we have the whole job situation, then we have the whole church situation. And then fast forward, I get sick. I meet someone, I get married, and we're not married for a year, and I get diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not even married for a year yet. And so they're telling me, you know, all this evasive things that I have to do. You know, if I don't get a mastectomy, I'm gonna, you know, this cancer is gonna come back. Just a whole bunch of, you know, things that were told to me in terms of, and I remember the day of diagnosis. I remember it as clear as day. August 5th, 2000.
Wow.
August 5th, 2009. I will never forget that. And so the doctor, you know, just the whole scenario, how he did it, you know, he came in the room, he's extra quiet. First it took forever for him to come in the room, then he finally gets in the room and he's looking over the paperwork, and then he just blurts out, you know, it's positive, you have breast cancer. And I'm just like, so I start crying, and I'm just like, this can't be happening to me. I just got married. Like, I have a husband now. Like, why is this even happening to me? And he's talking to me, but I'm still crying. I can hear him, but I'm still crying. And he says to me, well, if you don't do this, the cancer's going to come back and you're going to die. And so at the point when he said, you're going to die, that's when I stopped crying. Because I was like, excuse me, sir, you're not God. I immediately
you're all emotional in that. Wait, now you don't go too far.
You don't go too far. You gonna tell me? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm not. What? Are you crazy? So, yeah. So he told me I was gonna die, and I immediately snapped out of it. And I was like to myself, okay, so we're gonna see about that. How about that? We're gonna see about that. And I took as much charge of that situation as I could, but I had to leave the rest to, leave the rest to God and
Right.
my faith.
Right.
And so, no, I was not having a mastectomy. That was not going to happen. First of all, I'm getting rid of you. I'm going to get a second opinion. I'm going to go with a doctor that I feel a little more comfortable with, because I don't even like your bedside manner. How about that? And
Right.
and God is, I'm a king's kid. God said that by his stripes that I'm healed. So we're going to figure this thing out. So I'm going to go someplace else where I could feel comfortable and say, okay, this works well with my spirit and where I am right now. Right. And so I found another doctor, and he gave me another option. I went with that option. But I still had to go through that whole process. So I had to go through, chemotherapy. I had to go through radiation. I had to, go get surgery.
Wow.
But what was so crazy about that particular situation too is, at that point, I was just moving into entrepreneurship. So remember, we talked about before that, I was working, and I, had this human service background, but I had just I had just stopped working my full-time job 2008, July of 2008, so I can pursue entrepreneurship. And my first line of entrepreneurship was me writing proposals and resumes and papers for people and working online for the University of Phoenix. That was my first. So here I am, about to get real cushy in this new spot, and boom, here I am, diagnosed with breast cancer. So I took charge of that whole situation. I said, okay, I'm going to pay attention to my health. I'm going to put my business on the back burner for now, and I'm going to do what I need to do. And I stayed in faith with that. And so part of faith too, that I realized is that you have to cut people off that don't have faith.
Oh, wait a minute now. What you saying? What you saying,
When
Rob?
you are going through something that's really, you're fighting for your life, you have to have people around you that are believers. I'm not saying believers of Christ. I mean believers of your healing, right? Because I get that all of my friends don't confess Christ, right? But they're my good friends anyway. Right. They're still my good friends. I still love them. They don't necessarily confess Christ, but if they believe in my healing, and they believe the positive road that I'm going down, if they believe in, the outcome and the result that I want, which is to live and not die, then okay, you can rock with me. So during that time that I was sick, I had to cut a couple of people off that I still don't even talk to till this day. I don't want to talk to you. You understand what I'm saying? Because you messing with my faith now. No, I need to live. I just got a husband. I got married at 40. Hello, old. I got married at 40. So those of y'all, yes, I am well over 40. I know I don't look like it, but I am well over 40. Okay. Well over 40. So I'm getting married. I'm considered an old maid getting married. And here I am. I got to go through all, like, really? Are you serious? So no, I need to live. And so
I like what you're saying, because sometimes we make the assumption that the folk who are believers are going to be the ones to believe with us the most. And sometimes it's the people who don't even profess no faith or anything, that really believe in your possibilities, that really believe in your being able to be all you feel God is calling you to be. They're like, go for it. And they're behind you. And but because they're not quote unquote Christian, or they're not in our faith, people tend to act as if that's still not valuable. No. And it's valuable no matter who's in your circle. Yes. That there are people who believe in your possibilities, believe that God, you hear from God, that if you say this is the way you need to go, they support that. Versus, I've encountered so many church folk. When you tell them I heard God speak to me, they don't believe. They don't believe that I've heard from God. Exactly. That's not that they don't necessarily believe that. It's not met with the same level of well, then go get them. That positivity. So I love that you said that you have to just cut off naysayers, no matter what they call themselves, exactly. Whether they call themselves believers or not. if they are naysayers and they don't believe that God is using you or calling you or is going to heal you, that when you're fighting for your life and you're fighting to keep your faith up and you're fighting to stay strong, you got to limit. You just have to cut those voices out.
And and cancer is a nasty disease. You know, that's in it itself, right? It's nasty disease. You go through just, the hair loss, the tired. It's like it's just a whole process, right? Yeah, that you have to go through. So it's like you don't need. I needed to keep my faith, and I believe that. And to be honest, I never believed that I was going to die. Never.
Well, we could tell that when you said your tears dried up immediately when he said you would.
Like, sir, I don't think so. But I never believed that I was going to die. And really, to be honest, I don't believe it's going to come back.
Listen,
that's how much I believe.
Yeah,
right? I believe that it's not going to come back. And actually, I'm 10 years old now. Right? We in 2020. So I'm 10 years old now at this point, right? But yeah, so I go through that whole process, and it was so interesting. I had just became an author for the first time. And, which brings us to, like, I guess this point of, me with the books, right? Really, it's interesting that whole, road, it brought me to the moment where I would end up, I believe helping people to the capacity that I do, but I also believe that it equipped me because my faith spills on to my clients that don't believe that they could do what they want to do in terms of, writing a book and different things like that. And so here I am, 2007, I wrote this book. And then 2009, I'm diagnosed with, cancer, right? And I'm going through that whole process. But then in 2014, I found myself separated from my husband. 2014, my marriage is over. So my marriage is over, and I'm like, really? Like, really? Like, this is really happening to me. Like, I'm actually, but I had to, I guess not getting too deep into the story, but I had to end that relationship. I had to end that marriage. There was no way that I could stay in that marriage. And then I felt like this: God didn't bring me this far for me to allow somebody else to kill me.
Woo.
And I'm not, my cancer ain't coming back because of stress. Like, the cancer, well, not my cancer, but the diagnosis. I'm not getting another diagnosis. I'm not going through, that's not going to happen. So you got to go. You got to go. And it was scary because he was a cushion for me. He was a cushion for me in terms of the fact that here I am, trying to, have this business and grow a business, but really money paid the bills.
Right.
So I had to step out. That was another level of faith for me, because what am I going to do? Am I going to run back and get a job? Now, how was I going to do that if I haven't had a full-time job since 2008? Here I am in 2014. What is that? 6-7 years later? Now I'm going to go try to find a job, which actually I did. And it wasn't even, I couldn't even do it. Nobody would even hire me. Because like, well, what you been doing all this time? Right? But it was a real faith, like, okay, well, God, I guess I'm going to have to sink or swim with this whole thing of business or whatever, like really take it to a next level. And so that's when, I really, not at that point, before that, I was deep into, helping people to write and publish books or whatever. But I really had to step my game up at that point, because now I got bills to pay. I got rent to pay, because when he left, he wasn't helping.
Right.
He wasn't going to come over here and be like, here. So I really had to depend on God.
Wow.
I really had to depend on God for my business to sustain, to really help me, for me to be able to, you know, pay bills and stuff like that. So some nights I ain't even eat. But
Wow.
I'm sticking with the plan. I'm
Wow.
sticking with the plan. And the plan was designed that my purpose is to help people to write and publish books. My purpose is to help
Wow.
people to share their story. My purpose is to help people that are stuck, that may feel like, you know, I'm not the best writer in the world. So I'm not going to turn you away. I'm going to have the compassion that I probably never received. I'm going to have the grace that I probably never received. I'm going to have the mercy. I'm going to help you to get to the point of where you need to get, because you believe that this is what you're supposed to tell this story. You believe. So now here I am, little old me. Here I am. I am very clear that part of my job is to help people to create legacy. That's my job on earth. That's the corner that I'm supposed to work, right? And so even though I went through all of these things and it tested my faith, like it brought me to this point. And so now I'm good, honey. I'm in my flow. Now, it's not to say that business isn't hard. It's not to say that this is still not a faith walk, because it's one of them things that if I don't work, I don't eat, literally. Like,
Yes.
it's not like I punch a clock now. So this is a total faith walk. Entrepreneurship is a total faith walk.
Yes, but you said something. Let me stop you just.
Okay, I'm gonna shut up.
Because it was that good. Like you said something about purpose.
Yes.
Because you were clear now by this point that your purpose was to help facilitate others people's birthing of their stories, of whatever books God gave them. That's what your purpose. You were the publishing midwife, right? You were the one to help them give birth to that story and to whatever book that God has for them. So you understood your purpose. So you weathered the storm because when you knew what you were called to do. And I think that's such a struggle for so many people, that they still aren't clear about their purpose, so that when the storm hits, they start going back and looking back and going towards anything, trying to help them find their footing, versus standing in faith, believing that if this is the purpose God has called me to, He will make a way.
Yes.
He will see me through this storm. If this is my purpose, then to me it's like Jonah, right? His purpose was to deliver the message. You can try to go any other way you want to go, but when your purpose is to go prophesy to a people, that's where you're gonna go. But he went through so much because he didn't understand and he didn't agree with the purpose God had for his life. I pray somebody is being encouraged to not only pursue their purpose, but if they're not clear about it, to seek God's faith. God, what is my call? What have you called me to do? Really do. I always like to say, who have you called me to be?
Yes.
Because when you know who you're supposed to be, then you know what you're supposed to do. If you're called to be a firefighter, then you know you're supposed to help put out fires.
Exactly.
If you're called to be a literary midwife, then you know you're supposed to help people birth that through.
So Tisa, let me, and it's so crazy. I just realized something. Remember, you asked me where this come from, and I said that it came from my mom. It's so interesting that, and some people know this story, but they don't. Actually, I did not grow up a reading and writing scholar. Actually, most of my school years, I struggled in that area. However, my mom used to always say to me, it doesn't matter what they're talking about. You're going to go to college. You're going to grow up and go do great things. She was speaking that over me all the time. Like, it didn't matter. Like, if I came home with a not so nice report card, she would say, okay, you could do better, whatever. It was never like trying to, like, you better do better. No, it was just like, okay, you're going to do better next time. You're going to apply yourself a little better, but you're still going to grow up. You're going to go to college and you're going to do great things. You know, it's so interesting. And so it's like full circle. It's like the very thing that it was a fight, a struggle. Now it's the very thing that is tied to my purpose. Like that's the part that really boggles my mind about all of this. And so even if fast forward what happened with probation, you know, I even say that if I ever saw that lady again, I would say to her, thank you. Thank you for allowing yourself to be used to rattle me, because you thought that you were
Yes.
but really what you were a vehicle for, to push me into a place of faith throughout my life. So thank you.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you what I'm doing now. But I'm saying,
how am I able to even help you?
okay. So that just came to my mind that, you know, throughout the years, like even those things that my mother was speaking, those were words of faith.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the teachers said, regardless of whatever they said about me. But now, listen, I could write a book, honey, and I read very well.
Yeah.
Right?
Look at God.
It didn't click for me until later, but it did click ultimately at some point. And so even if the thing about faith, you know, faith also is about you being obedient to the process that's set in front of you, right?
Wow.
If you know, and this is the thing, fear is there. It's a, you know, it's there. It's not to say that there's not a level of hesitancy or something like that, but I feel like faith is always stronger than fear. If you take hold of it, if you grab it, if you say that this is what's going to happen, you know what I mean? Like to me, faith can always overrule fear, because of course it's from God and God overrules everything, right? So once I learned that, then it's like, okay, I could just keep moving. And there's so many stories in between, like faith moments or whatever, that we don't even have time for me to go into, but just highlighting just those pivotal, you know, times in my life. I know that God was holding my hand. I know that it was for a greater purpose. I know I'm clear on what my purpose is, and I sleep well at night knowing that. So all of those people that were used as vehicles or allowed themselves to be used as vehicles, God bless you. I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad, because I'm good. I'm good.
Listen, I got laid off in 2009, and at first I was highly insulted, because I was like, I'm the best one on your team, and you letting me go? You're not gonna have a good team. You're not gonna have a team. And I was like, oh, you letting me go? I was highly insulted. And then it clicked in my head that the week before I was crying in one of the other girls' cues because I didn't feel like I was doing anything of purpose. And I was like, I don't even like this job. And God said in that moment, were you not just crying? Like, go, I jumped up, scared the people. They jumped, and I hugged them, and they were like, oh. And I was like, thank you, because thank you. When you realize that some things happen that you actually didn't even know was part of your desires. You were thinking one thing, and God has another plan that's so much bigger and greater. Yeah. And we don't always recognize it in the moment. But you said something else that I like, that sometimes fear is going to be there.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I want people to be okay with, because the Bible also tells us, as much as the Bible tells us do not fear, right? It's to support us, not to shame us in having fear. God has all of these emotions. So we're not supposed to feel shame when we feel afraid. We're supposed to feel supported when we feel afraid, right? Because the Bible also tells us to be courageous.
Yes.
You can't be courageous without fear. That's what courage is. To have courage is to say, I feel afraid, but I'm moving anyway. I am going to trust God anyway. I keep on my wall. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. That scripture has sustained me when my life turned upside down. Be strong, be courageous. To be courageous takes bravery. It's
Yes.
okay that you're afraid. Keep on walking. It's okay. And you get stronger and stronger
Yeah.
every time you keep moving forward. And that's what your life, just watching you through the years, that's what your life has shown me, my sister, is that you are a woman of faith, but also a woman of courage. That even in the midst of moments where it's legitimate to be afraid, a
Yeah.
diagnosis of breast cancer is a legitimate moment to
It is.
feel fear. What's going to happen to me if I leave here? What's going to happen to my children, my son? What's going, like, these aren't meant, again, the word is not meant to shame us. The word is to say, when you feel afraid,
Yes.
remember what I told you. Be
Yes.
strong. Be
Yeah.
courageous.
Yes.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay. I will be with you. And he has been with you through these years. I am excited about your testimony. It blesses my life because I've been telling people on the show, and I hope you guys are being blessed by this, that, I tend to bring people on that I know for a fact. Like they're not someone I know through somebody else's story. I've seen the walk. I've seen the hardships. I've been in the process with them. We've cried together. We've prayed together. We have tried to support together. And so I'm inspired by your testimony, and I'm so honored that you came and shared it with all of us on my show. And listen, you were entrepreneur while I was still doing the day-to-day, right? And now that I'm getting into more an entrepreneurial side again to myself, we all know it's not easy.
No, it's not.
It's not
Faith. It's faith on fleek. Listen, honey, it is on a whole different level for sure. And this thing, I'm not knocking anyone that they have a job, because sometimes I think about doing it myself, right? Especially in those times when I'm like, oh, this is just a lot. But it's definitely a faith walk. But I think that just life in general is a faith walk.
Yes.
Period.
For
Like,
the believer. Yes.
you gotta believe. And it's like I said, it's not that sometimes, I don't get shaken up, or, I may get upset about different things or whatever, but I've just learned to just keep it moving and just believe that it's all gonna work out. Just like the Bible says, all things work together for the good.
All things.
All things.
Well, my sister, folk are being blessed. They're saying thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for your transparency. Tell us now, how can people get connected to you? Because again, you have been called to midwife in the literary world, right? To really help people go from having a seed of an idea for their book to really moving through the process of putting it to paper. I mean, I used to love those sessions you would do where you would hold people accountable weekly. Where you at? And it was just great, right? To see somebody really being that committed to helping other people get through that process, because it's not an easy process either. So how can people connect with you?
Well, I mean, you can always go to my website, robinedevonish.com. I'm, on social media as Robin Devonish. I have an IG page called on IG page Pen Publish Profit, but most of the time I'm on Facebook. Or if you want, you could just DM me. I'm not one of the people that I'm not reachable or anything like that. So, robinedevonish.com, or you can DM me, and let's talk about getting your book done. And earlier I did a live, and I talked about the time is now. Now is when I say the time is now, it's not only just about books, it's just about things in general. The time is now. I think that a lot of us, because of fear, we don't move forward. We hesitate, we procrastinate. And, you know, at the end of the day, 300,000 people have died and you're still
Ooh,
alive.
Jesus.
So what are you waiting for? So it's time.
Girl,
It's not only just about the book.
you just pricked me.
It's not only about the book, though. It's about whatever you were told to do, whatever idea, whatever, you know, witty invention that you were given. The time is now.
Yes.
The time is like we
Time
don't
is
have time.
now.
So walk in faith and believe and just do what you believe that you're supposed to do. And stop frustrating grace, stop frustrating mercy, and stop walking with the audacity of believing that you have time.
Wow. 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 Thank you so much, my sister. What a note to leave on, because that just made me say, ouch. Okay. The time is now. Walk in faith. You guys, please be encouraged. I pray her story blessed you. Again, let's keep each other lifted in prayer. I've been meaning to start saying that on this show, that even as you see people names kind of consistently through the weeks on thank you, Jamia, on the platform, just lift them up in prayer. You don't have to know everyone, but everybody is going through something at this time. So we can definitely pray. Even if you just say, God, pray. I'm praying for people on Tisa's Rants and Musings that come on. Pray for each other. Keep me in your prayers. Keep my sister Robin in your prayers. And we will see you next week. Thank you again. Thank you, Robin. God bless you